The streets are buzzing. Welcome in. Tonight's live stream, CT in the chat. You know where it's at. As our New York Knicks dust themselves off after a 38-point loss. Right, but got a much needed boost, ladies and gentlemen. Big time update is that Jose Alvarado set to make his debut against the Boston Celtics, man, in the nick of time, and the Knicks need it, man. We'll talk about the buyout market, what is the Knicks' next move, and this run coming up before the All-Star break. We'll answer your questions, man, and we'll talk about the road ahead with Deuce McBride, man, out, and life after the trade deadline. The New York Knicks now have a target on their back, right? And the Boston Celtics await after the Detroit Pistons, man, had their way with the New York Knicks last night, man. A lot of thoughts coming through, man. And shout out to the chat, Doug Fresh, Johnny Chiba, Al Tango. Great update coming, obviously, of the Knicks injury report. Reports Ian Begley and co. Jose Alvarado available tomorrow to make his Knicks debut, man. And I think, obviously, you don't want to put too much pressure on one, particular player, man, to make that much of a difference. But we'll talk about where I think the Knicks were lackluster last night, against the Detroit Pistons. Got to give the Pistons full credit because I think they were completely up for it, obviously, and their compete level was super high. And obviously, though, the Knicks were completely short-handed, man. As we talk about the changing of the guards, man, ball handling, point of attack, and ball pressure. All the things that I think have been one of the key weaknesses with this Knicks squad, man. Everyone's talking about toughness, and yes, Detroit were more healthy last night despite no Jalen Duren. Yes, they have more size. They do have toughness with Beef Stew. Or Sarah Thompson played a phenomenal game. And look, Brunson didn't have much help. Man, Mikal Bridges didn't step up enough, in my opinion. Wasn't aggressive enough. And Josh Hart really, really struggled, fam. And obviously, look, you love Hart for giving it a go. But he wasn't anywhere near himself, man. Definitely Hart was super hesitant, especially trying to get to the rack and make things happen, right? The Knicks just did not have the floor spacing without OG, without Cat, right? But as we talk about the looming debut of Jose Alvarado, our newest Knick, man, we got another guy that can bring the ball up with speed, man, and point of attack ball pressure. That is something that the Knicks really struggle with on the offensive end, and Detroit smothered the Knicks, man. I thought Kolek just wasn't quick enough getting the ball up the court. Neither was Brunson, man. They were very slow, and it played into Detroit's hands, man. Yes, like I said, you don't have the floor spacing with Cat and with OG, but you also need to get the ball up quickly, man. Get into a set. And the Knicks just did not have the energy. The compete level was the biggest difference. Obviously, Knicks short-handed. Let's see how much of an impact Jose Alvarado makes. Fam, Johnny Chiba says, I can't see Jose not having a great first day at the Garden of Dreams, fam. Yeah, first game going to be on the road, obviously against Boston, but it's going to be a baptism by fire. We'll take you through the buyout candidates, man. Do the Knicks need a big? Do they need another wing? Do they even need another ball handler, fam? Fresh off the press, man. A minute before I've just come on live. Cole Anthony expected to be bought out by surprise by the Phoenix Suns. So I know we just picked up Alvarado, but how you feel about another New York native, Cole Anthony? We've got Jet Life for Life in the building, Nostalgic Nick, Michael Drake, Vaughn Allen. Big up to everyone joining us tonight, man, and the many more piling through tonight. And we're on no minutes restriction. We've got a lot to get off our chest after last night, fam. But on the injury report from Boston, first and foremost, Sam Hauser is questionable, right? Sunday versus the Knicks due to a back injury, and Jason Tatum remains out with the Achilles. So Tatum made a smart move. He ain't coming back against the Knicks for his first game We wait to see how close Tatum gets to returning. Um, like I said, Phoenix Suns expected to waive Cole Anthony, allowing him to be a free agent, league sources say. But outside of Alvarado, ready to go, man, locked and loaded. OG, toe, Josh Hart ankle, and Cat eye laceration are all listed as questionable for tomorrow as well. And look, y'all know what that means. It's probably going to mean at least 2 or 3 of them are going to play. Um, we'll see. Cat with the eye thing, man, a lot of people have weighed in. Should Cat have played? Could he have played? I think they're obviously just playing it safe in case the eye laceration was to open up again. But if it was a playoff game, I think Cat probably would have played. Um, so we'll talk about that and the other names coming through, man, on the buyout market. But look, obviously a thorough beatdown by Detroit, man. They're still angry, man. That just goes to show what the loss to the Knicks in the playoffs meant to Detroit, man, because they were super up for that one. I thought Landry Shamet's compete level. I want to give a shout out to Landry because obviously it was a super bum night, man, and wasn't much accolades to give around. But I thought Landry, man, he fought through screens, tried to keep the Knicks around. His energy, his player movement is always great. And I can't wait to get another guy like that in Alvarado, who's just going to be a pest. Um, the Knicks couldn't hit shots at a higher level because, the ball pressure was big time. But I do think, another ball handler with speed and point of attack defense with Alvarado is going to be much, much needed, fam. But obviously, man, his debut and what kind of stat line are y'all expecting for Jose Alvarado, man? The energy is going to be awesome. And obviously he's going to rep, for those that don't know, he's going to rep number 5, Jose Alvarado, man, GTA 5, ready to get busy as a New York Knick and wear that jersey with pride. Man, Nostalgic Knick says glad GTA is here to change the Knicks. Stylistically, I think it's just going to be a big fit and addition. Obviously, Kolek, was the backup last night. And like I said, he just couldn't get the ball up quick enough with the ball pressure. And reverse on the other end, not only were we constantly picking the ball out of the cup, but we couldn't, advance the ball quick enough. And I think that is one of the Knicks' biggest weaknesses, fam. Jeremy Sohan intends to finish the season out with the Spurs. So looks like Sohan won't be bought out. So he will not be an option, fam, too. We'll talk about the options coming up. Dink Pate had a great night in the G League last night. He'll be repping in the G League All-Star break. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists too. Wasn't many Knicks highlights to go around, so we'll pull up some Dink Pate highlights. It's going to be intriguing what the Knicks do, guys, with that 15th spot. Clarkson, less said the better last night, man. Huck Porty, big letdown. And we're going to talk about that right now, fam. This is the topic of the show. Obviously, Alvarado, ready to go. Give us your takes on him. Let's talk about what the Knicks should do with the 15th spot now, because there is some intriguing names, some veterans, right? But there is some guys in our backyard as well, right? Should they make space for another guy? Let us know, fam. Obviously, Trey Jemison, I think, looked better than Huck Porty, right? The game was already done when Trey Jemison came on, but I think he gives you a bit more toughness, ruggedness, and his NBA experience. I think processing seems to be a little bit more ready last night than what I saw with Huck Porty, right? So could the Knicks make a surprising move? Could they cut Clarkson and waive him? Could they think about swapping Huck Porty out? Right. This will tell me how serious Leon Rose is in terms of what he says. Singular focused on bringing a championship, to the Knicks. Right. We mentioned ball handling, size. Look at Dink Pate go to work, 6'8", using his size and ball handling ability. Thing is, Detroit's situationals and bench lineup was just far superior to the Knicks, situationals. McCullough, Huck Porty, like I mentioned, Kolek, Dennis Jenkins, is playing at a really, really high level. But they've got Karis LeVert, Javonte Green. I mean, even their bench mob. I mean, the mop up duty mob was also, extending the lead too. So the Knicks just got to get more talent at the end of the bench, right? Now, obviously, people say, man, the top 7, top 8 guys is what's going to differentiate you from winning a title. But obviously, we're down bodies, and so on a night like last night, you really see how much deeper the Pistons' talent is. But that said, man, the silver lining is with the floor spacing and an addition of Jose Alvarado, some extra defense and ball handling, and the floor better spaced out. We are still, I think, the more talented team, but I think the difference could be Karl Anthony Towns, fam. Not going to talk about the Detroit matchup too much tonight because we want to get on to these buyout names and stuff and shout you guys out. But I do want to just sort of reiterate how important I think Karl Anthony Towns is to the difference between a Knicks Detroit Pistons series, because Detroit are a great team. They've got so much talent. We know what OG's going to bring. He was out. We know what McCall and Brunson bring, and Hart. Cat could be the difference maker because he's the guy you're paying $53 million to, man. And the Knicks are top heavy in terms of salary. We need his floor spacing. We need him to win that matchup against, whether it be Beef Stew, Duran, and beat up on Tobias Harris, whoever else they want to put on him. That's it, man. I think we need the floor spacing. We've got everyone in the building, man. AP, salute. We've got a super chat. I'll get to that, man. Any Celtics trolls out here coming through? I can't see them at the moment, man. Maybe the mods got to them. Appreciate you. AP with a super chat says, shout out to the chat. Streets are buzzing and Knicks fans are at war with Detroit. 2 blowouts and these guys are calling in. Still Knicks fans show talking crazy. Yep, shout out to Ron and John, still Knicks fans, with a big stream earlier today. Doing great work. But yeah, Pistons, look, they're going to puff their chest out, Pistons fans, because look, what Pistons have been down for a minute, man. To me, it ain't a real rivalry yet, right? We beat them last season, and look, they were one of the better teams towards the end of the regular season last year. I think if you compare the record for the last 30 games in the regular season last year, the Pistons kind of crept up on a lot of people because they were one of the better teams statistically to end last season. And that's why last playoffs wasn't too much of a surprise in terms of how much of a battle it was. And obviously the Pistons have got better, but so have the New York Knicks. And I think Alvarado is going to add a lot. Again, I don't want to put too much pressure on one guy, but he is going to address a major weakness, and that is significant, right? He's not just a body coming in. He's going to address one of our biggest weaknesses, which is ball handling and ball pressure. And that is, I think, the biggest, outside of being shorthanded last night, guys, that is, I think, the biggest difference. Pistons can deal with ball pressure. They've got so many guys like Cade Cunningham can bring the ball up. Dennis Jenkins bring the ball up quickly. And they were swinging the ball around. They had great floor spacing, and they hit those shots. And I think the Knicks just got to get quicker, man. I was frustrated watching Brunson, even when he wasn't being pressured too much. He was walking the ball up, right? Similar to the Tibbs style offense, man. I know it's a habit. Old habits die hard. But Brunson was bringing the ball up too slow. Man, you're not going to get quality shots against Detroit's offense walking the ball up. Tyler Kolek as well. He was meandering the ball up the floor. So got to play with more purpose. Got to play with more speed. That's the biggest thing that I saw last night, man. You could talk about toughness. You could talk about size all night. But I do think you got to be quicker. You got to get in to the sets a lot quicker, fam. And obviously the floor spacing is going to help. And that's where I'm saying we didn't have OG. We didn't have Cat. And Hart, man, less said the better last night because Hart shouldn't have played. I know he probably felt like, you know, suiting up for his brothers because we're shorthanded. But yeah, Hart really wasn't himself last night, man. Big shout out to the next super chat, SF Wisdom. Salute CT. Will Leon be on the hot seat for this team being too top heavy, especially if injuries cost us? As we see Deuce McBride, put out and shout out to the fans and let us know, man, he'll be back better than ever and do whatever is willing to help this team. I think, with Leon Rose being on the hot seat, SF, I think, there'll be a lot of, post-mortem aftermath of this season if we don't win the chip. I do think Leon Rose will probably have a little bit more time, without overreacting too much. No regular season win or loss will define one season, fam. And, like I said, we could go all the way back to last regular season. The Pistons were actually the best team in the East for the last 30 games, I believe. And so, but the Knicks still sent the Pistons home packing. They still sent the Boston Celtics packing as well. We almost sent the Indiana Pacers home packing as well. So, yeah, it's I don't read too much into the regular season, but there is a lot of learning lessons, and Detroit are a much better team than they were last season as well. And the only way, I'm going to be honest, the only way I see us beating Detroit is at full health. And so, yeah, there will be a lot of questions to be asked about being top heavy, fam. And that's why I said Karl Anthony Towns is the biggest swing factor because, not to go too far back, but obviously Julius Randle and Dante, we had a certain identity, and we've talked about it over the last 2 years. That's gone now, and we are a different kind of team. But that'll define this era. The Karl Anthony Towns trade, in my opinion, fam, will forever be attached to Leon. Now, the book isn't closed yet. If he can flip Cat in the summer and we get Giannis, then the story continues. You know what I mean? There's a part 2. We're talking Avatar right now. Part 2, part 3, maybe part 4. I think if he can turn Cat's salary into a Giannis, then obviously, you're in a situation where we're still in the mix. But for this season and this season only, and we could talk about, I think, yeah, Cat has to be the difference, in my opinion. He has to hit shots. He has to be disciplined. He has to be dominant on the block. And I'm a respectful fan. Jalen Duren's having a hell of a season. Pistons are a heck of a team. But let's call it a buck. If Karl Anthony Towns can't win a matchup against Isaiah Stewart, or if Cat can't win his one-on-one individual matchup against Jalen Duren, who's still young in the league, he's not a $53 million player, I'm expecting Cat to still win that matchup. And if he can't, the Knicks will be in a tough situation, right? So yeah, appreciate the comments, questions, the buzz coming through. But our guy, Jose Alvarado, man, making his debut against Boston, man, I can't wait to see him go head-to-head. We'll talk about who he's going to match up on, but he's probably going to play 30-plus minutes, man. Mike Brown was already singing in Jose Alvarado's praise, and we are shorthanded, right? AP, with the follow-up, says these Knicks need to back up what they say about them. Yeah, I think this team is a vibes and moments team, and they will flip the switch. I'm not too worried again about the loss in terms of one specific loss. I know it's been 2 losses now, 58 points, the total margin versus the 2 losses in Detroit, right? However, like I said, fam, when the Knicks know what's at stake, they flip the switch. Now, it makes it more frustrating that they ain't flipping the switch when they need to in the regular season. But when it's the playoffs, it's just a different level of energy. As we're looking at these highlights, shout out Papa Left for uploading these highlights as well. Y'all see him on X and doing great work with your Knicks platform, underscore the 6th man on X. We're looking at these Jose Alvarado, different highlights, in terms of defensive impact, right? I thought that was a great upload. Elliot, great comment here, says, and the Knicks will send Detroit packing again this postseason. No worries. Uh, great to still hear the confidence. We ain't getting rattled over, specific regular season losses because we've seen it before. But that doesn't mean we don't have to come correct, right? I mentioned the situationals last night and Cat. Now let's talk about in the spotlight, and then we're going to get to the buyout conversation. But anyone coming through the building now, blessings up. Saturday night, let's talk our Knicks. Hit that like button. Appreciate you coming through. Mohamed Diawara, right? We love what we see from Mo Diawara. Is he ready for the big stage? You could make an argument either way. We could talk about that with the buyout guys. Landry, definitely in that playoff rotation. Clarkson doesn't, and shouldn't play. Does not need to play and should not play right now. Struggle town. And Tyler Kolek with Alvarado coming in is probably going to lose his spot as well, fam. As we see Jose Alvarado posted by the Knicks account, repping the Knicks, man, earlier in his days. He's got to be hyped, man. The adrenaline is going to be big time. And so, if we don't make a meaningful pickup in the buyout market, man, why Mohamed Diawara is in the spotlight, he's got to play. Like, he's a valuable defensive, tool. Offensively, he's shown to be able to knock down the three ball. Let's see how that plays out for the rest of the season. But I think you've got to keep playing Mohamed Diawara, man. Keep his confidence high. Keep playing him. He's still a guy that I think is super valuable, along with Landry Shamet. He's one of the wings and the power forwards that have the size that we don't have. And Yabul Sele's out, Mohamed Diawara in. I'm down. I'm buying stock in Mohamed Diawara, Landry Shamet, and I'm selling my stock on Jordan Clark. Well, I've sold my stock on Jordan Clarkson, and for now, for the rest of this season, I'm kind of selling stock on Tyler Kolek with Alvarado coming in. Right now, let's flip over to some of these guys potentially available, and some of them available right now. Too. Let us know your thoughts. Right. El Tango says Clarkson looks lost at times. Yep. Nostalgic Nick says Knicks need to sign Niang, another agitator. Fam, yep. Yeah, there's something to be said about backing up the talk, Dennis Jenkins, y'all might have seen, him talking smack because Tyler Kolek likes to talk. For those that don't know, Tyler Kolek self-admitted he likes to talk out there, and I think Dennis Jenkins took that matchup personally. If we're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk, fam. And Tyler Kolek got undressed last night, just playing at a different speed, man. And so GTA 5, man, I'm putting you on right now. 30 minutes tomorrow night with Deuce out. Jet Life for Life says Boucher is an older version of Mohamed Diawara. Yeah, Chris Boucher, high on my list, fam. These are the guys that I think might be worthwhile picking up for various reasons. Eddie salutes his embarrassing loss for the Knicks yesterday. Pistons play like we did under Tibbs with better athletes. Yeah, they seem confident, and I think, again, the Knicks just weren't even at their best. I think the compete level alone, they were at 99, and the Knicks compete level was like at 65, maybe even lower. But they knew, being short-handed, it's going to be tough, you know. It's going to be tough. But yeah, with the roster constructed, to go back again to SF's super chat, salute. We do have a top-heavy roster, and you miss OG, you miss Cat. Like, yeah, Jalen Duren's an awesome piece, but he doesn't mean as much to them as Cat and OG mean to the Knicks. Let's call it like it is. And obviously, they're both guys with extra size. So, Chris Boucher. Now, Robert Williams hasn't been bought out at this stage. Dario Saric is set to be bought out by Detroit, right? So that's interesting name. Not a defensive-minded player, but a stretch four, can score the ball a little bit, can handle. Now, Dario Saric, he has to get cut by Detroit to make way for Dennis Jenkins, fam. Right. Dennis Jenkins has completely exhausted his two-way games. He needs to be converted this weekend, And Trajan Langdon, the front office executive for Detroit, has all but confirmed that Dennis Jenkins is going to get a regular roster spot, and they do got to cut, I think, Dario Saric. Now, there's a big case to be made for the Knicks signing another big man. Ariel Hukporti. I love the promise he has, or he's shown early in his career, but he's just not dependable right now, man. He's Ariel Hukporti in the big moment. He's not ready for the big stage. Let's call it like it is, right? Now, underwhelming names, some of these guys in terms of the bigs. Mason Plumlee. He provides good rebounding energy, can move his feet. What do y'all think? Or do the Knicks need more wing help and ball handling, right? Like I said earlier, is there a case where they think Ariel trade Jemison? Maybe they do a swap. I'm not at that point yet, but Ariel Hukporti is on a $1.9 million deal, I believe, and he's a free agent. So keeping in mind what Leon said, man, singularly focused on bringing a championship, right? If we are short in the big man spot, you need to make a tough decision, man, and bring in a veteran. Because if Cat's in foul trouble, or Mitch can't play 30-plus minutes, or the hacker Mitch is in full effect, I think the Knicks might need another big man. It's tough, man. Now, there is some wings that can guard up in size. Kyle Anderson, Chris Boucher, Haywood Highsmith, 5'8", athletic, can handle the ball some as well. Kyle Anderson and Haywood Highsmith would probably be at the top of my list with Chris Boucher right now. Cole Anthony, Cam Thomas, I think would still help the team, but less of a need right now. Nicholas Batum, whatever he's got left, that could be an interesting, situation to look at. Duop Reith has been waived as well, but he's out for the rest of the season, fam. So Duop Reith out for the rest of the season. And I do think that the Knicks might need another healthy big, man. I think so. Malachi Branham has some promise, drafted in the first round by the San Antonio Spurs. Hasn't been able to get much traction, but he's an athlete who can, at the 2 guard, be a combo guard and actually create and handle the basketball, which I think is another weakness of this squad, right? Again, the Deuce injury has just changed a lot of the thought process. One, it makes the Alvarado need 10 times as important. But not just that. Theoretically, Alvarado is just replacing Deuce. We still needed ball handling on top of that, in my opinion. Now, Kolek's been able to have his moments. And as I said in many streams previously, Kolek's a guy where you can play depending on the series, but he's not going to be for every series. I specifically said 2 weeks ago, Kolek wasn't for a Detroit series. That's a hard-nosed, ball pressure, grind you down type series. However, a series against Boston, a series against Cleveland, Cavaliers, Atlanta, Indiana, a series where you're getting up and down, Philadelphia with Maxey. That's a series where I think Kolek could give you something. But now we've got Alvarado. Obviously, he's going to have a seat, I think, for now. He's going to be up against it when Deuce gets back. Now, until Deuce gets back, Kolek might still have a major factor to play just in these regular season games. Wave Dillon says Nostalgic Nick on the 2-way. Dink Pate is out there, and I think it's worth a case, man. I know if we can't land one of these vets, One Shot D says, get me Boucher and Thibault. Yeah, I like Thibault. Let me talk about him for a minute. My thing with Thibault is he's more of an off-ball guy, and he's got value. He cuts. He's good player movement. Obviously, point of attack defense would add a lot, but he can't really handle the ball, so he's more of an off-ball kind of guy. But again, it's hard. We can't cover all our needs. with one specific guy. But yeah, bring in Alvarado, and yeah, maybe Matisse Thybulle is another perfect fit to use that last 15th roster spot on as well. Let us know how you feel about this name, Garrison Matthews. You know, we know the Knicks like to, you know, go back to the well in terms of like players that they used to have in their building. And obviously they had to cut Garrison Matthews to keep Landry Shamet, right? There ain't a lot of smoke around that name, Garrison Matthews, but he's out there. He's available as well. He would stretch the floor. Wouldn't help us defensively. Um, but again, with Deuce out, it's just like, okay, which need do you cover? You know, because we lose scoring with Deuce McBride out. And yes, we're trying to add more size and defense as well. That's why I'm talking about potentially cutting Clarkson. Because with Alvarado in here, you've got Kolek. What's the need for Clarkson to stick around? Let's be real. Could we upgrade Ariel Hukporty's spot and make a tough decision? Right. Ariel's still probably going to be available in the summer if you cut him. You know, he's a free agent. I don't know if the Knicks are going to commit money to him next season anyways. So is Leon Rose going to get real aggressive, potentially open up more spots? You know, Efrain Mendez, Sacktown, love your show. Appreciate you. Let's get it. Jose, baby. I look forward to his debut, man. He's going to give just that energy. You know, we talk about the Knicks being that vibes and moments team, you know, and flipping a switch, you know, coming to play on big nights, certain nights, not so much. Alvarado is going to be the guy that's just going to be on every night, you know, and he's going to light a fire under these guys. And like I said, I have an issue with the urgency from last night, you know. Yes, I know we were shorthanded, but I just didn't feel like we had the energy, man. So Mohamed Diawara is really important. Nicholas Batum, if he's kind of washed and you don't know how much he's got left, then, you know, maybe you stick with Modi. I'm looking for a guy who could handle the basketball a little bit more in terms of, you know, Slow-Mo Anderson and obviously Matisse Thybulle and, you know, Hayward Highsmith that can create a little bit more. On Huck, Al Tango says here, Huck P still a little raw. Yeah, I think the moment got to him, you know, and Beef Stew, Jalen Duran, they're going to be some tough matchups too. One Shot D says Thybulle would get good minutes because he's a lockdown defensive guy. And G Dog, shout out, says Thybulle and Highsmith will barely get minutes on the team. They aren't coming. Yeah, on that point, man, I've seen a lot of teams obviously compete, man. You know, everyone looking to try to, you know, fortify their roster. And there are some names where I haven't put, like Kevin Love, DeAndre Jordan. You know, I could tell you right now, fam, they ain't coming. DeAndre Jordan did not have a good ending to his Knicks tenure, and so did Kevin Love. You know, been trolling James Dolan on his Instagram for years. So for y'all that might not be aware, you know, Kevin Love, you know, been trolling James Dolan and whatever, and the Knicks. Yeah, it ain't happening. Kevin Love is not a Knicks kind of player. He ain't coming, right? Um, you know, so with that said, man, look, prayers up for Deuce McBride, man. Look, the timetable is 6 to 8 weeks. The sports hernia. Apologies, I correct myself. I did say it was an ankle injury last time, man. Everyone been getting an ankle injury, so I kind of got it mixed up. But yeah, the core injury to Deuce McBride, you know, surgery could go, you know, should hopefully go well, and then, you know, he starts that rehab process ASAP, and might get back. If it's 6 weeks, it's going to be like still with a couple of weeks left in the season, so he might be back for the last, you know, 5 games, you know, 5 to 3 games before the end of the regular season. That would be ideal. Look, even if we got to get through the first round, but I think the best possible outcome is that Deuce McBride is back for the meaningful games, right? And bringing in our guy Jose, man, prior to Brooklyn, stand up, you know, coming out. He's a guy that is going to put on. I think he's going to put on for the city, right? And his family, first and foremost, right? But Yeah, look, Dink Pate is an intriguing name. I like what I saw from him last night. I was keeping a close eye out. Uh, we talk about a guy that, you look at Cade Cunningham with his size and length, bringing the ball up the floor. Look at the athlete that Dink Pate is, blowing by everyone. And, in transition, that's where you need to capitalize, right? Last night, man, it was Cole Eckert, it was Brunson just walking the ball up, literally letting their half court defense get set. It's like, they're an elite half court defense, and all we did was play into their hands for whatever reason. Maybe we're too tired. The floor spacing was a big reason as well, with everyone able to converge on Brunson. There was one possession where I'm like, man, there's three guys on Brunson. Someone else has got to be open, you know, on the inbound. This is off a Detroit make, So Detroit, man, they were making so many shots. They were quickly swarming to Brunson. It's like three guys on him. Who else is there? There's got to be someone else that can bring the ball up. Uh, and that's something that Mikal Bridges ain't the best at. He can do it with there's one. If there's one solo defender on Mikal, he can advance the ball, but not under significant pressure. Now we know Dink Pate doesn't want a two-way. That's been confirmed. He's looking to keep his college eligibility in case he doesn't land a full deal. But if we were to offer Dink Pate a full deal, it'd probably be looking at a multi-year contract because he's probably not taking a 1-year deal. So it'd be interesting to see if Leon Rose looks at that, or he looks at, one of these veterans, or he opens up an extra spot. For me, it's a no-brainer, man. I would cut Clarkson. Thank you for your service. Been a great, well, he's been up and down. At times, he's been a great pickup, and then for the most part, it's just, the the run has come to an end. Just like Yabusele, the run has come to an end with Jordan Clarkson. A little redundant. When Deuce is healthy, Alvarado's here now, and you've got Kolek that can still be that point guard. If he's not scoring at a really high level and hitting shots, he's not that useful at all, man. And he's turning it over. Last night he looked washed. Did Jordan Clarkson, and again the lack of floor spacing did hurt. But that was probably the worst game in terms of where I looked at Clarkson. I'm like, yeah, he's kind of washed right now. So we've got some names coming out. Al Tango says no Matthews. He's a cone on D. That is a concern. Look, worst case scenario, I would swap Cole Anthony with he could be that combo guard. He can score as well. He could fill it up. He is a point guard, but I would swap Clarkson's spot with Cole Anthony if that is an option. Kevon Looney is a name that I would like as well. Now he hasn't been bought out yet, so that's why I haven't put him on this graphic just yet. Dirty Dancer, welcome in, says Kevin Love is the best option, but he is cooked on D. Yeah, Kevin Love, the player, I think it's debatable, but like I said, I think Kevin Love doesn't feel like a New York Knicks kind of player. If you followed over the years, he's trolled, especially when he was on the Heat. He likes to troll the Knicks. James Dolan, he's put some stuff on his Instagram about Dolan and that. This Kevin Love just never felt like a Knicks player to me. I think he probably goes elsewhere for me. One Shot D says a lot of teams already have rotation. Thibault probably wants to go to a team that's going to the playoffs so he can get paid in the summer. You get paid when you perform in the playoffs. Yeah, that's a point I made last stream in terms of Cam Thomas. Like, I think Cam Thomas is not going to come to the Knicks, even if the Knicks are interested. Because I do think Cam Thomas is just looking for his future contract. He's looking to get paid. The Knicks aren't going to use caps. They're not going to go over the second apron for Cam Thomas. With Deuce needing to get paid, with Mitch needing to get paid. I think Cam Thomas will go to a guy that go to a place where he can get a handshake agreement, and and potentially get lined up, for another contract. And look, we've got Jose Alvarado's 4.5 million for next season, which I think they've all but had that conversation about him sticking around, for the future and for long term. Yeah, if Leon Rose really looking at like, okay, singular focused on bringing a championship, I'm cutting Huck Porty and I'm cutting Jordan Clarkson, man, and I'm bringing in, whether it be Chris Boucher, Robert Williams if he gets bought out, Kevon Looney, just a more proven big man as a backup that can play in the playoffs, and Jordan Clarkson fill his spot with a Hayward Highsmith, Cole Anthony, with a Kyle Anderson. I'd probably even go Malachi Branham as an option as well. Lonzo Ball's not going to come, and neither is Conley. Now, the talk is Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson are lining up a return back to Minnesota. So I don't think the Knicks are front runners for Kyle Anderson, fam. The talk is that I think he's going to try to go back to Minnesota, where he had a big run, obviously, with Mike Conley there as well. So that could well be the case. Yeah, Efrain Mendez says Mo, Jose, Macau, quick energy. We've got to play at a faster speed, I think, and obviously with guys like OG and Cat in the lineup, we'll be a lot better at the floor spacing, knocking down those shots. Jet Life for Life says I like Matthews, but yeah, we have way too many guards. CT. Soul Train says Marvin Bagley. Yeah, we wait to find out the outcome of his situation, but right now he's in the lineup with Dallas. So I'm waiting to see. The Dallas cut Powell, Dwight Powell. They've got Gafford. Obviously, they moved on from AD, but they've got Bagley now. They've got Dwight Powell. We'll see what happens with those guys. But yeah, I think we could do with another big man. I was all for giving Huck Porty an audition. You want to give your own guy a chance, but man, he failed the test. Most definitely, man. He looks completely like a deer in the headlights out there, man. Did Huck Porty. Michael Drake brings up Cole Anthony, man, son of former Nick Greg Anthony. Cole Anthony has been bought out, man. Could it be two homecomings? Fam. Look, just on talent, I'm not the biggest Cole Anthony guy, but just, you can't ignore that level of talent in terms of a guy who could facilitate and score some with Deuce McBride out. But we need to get more size. You brought in Alvarado. Salute Queen's Place. Do we get a Highsmith like G-Dog says? We brought in one smaller dude. I think we've got to bring in another guy that with a bit more size now, whether it be Matisse, Highsmith, Nick Batum, Slow-Mo Anderson, Branham, Minivan, George Niang. He's lower on my list. I'm not a big George's Niang guy, but he's he's got extra size, man. But is he another Yabu? He's another Yabu, man, that's stuck in second gear. He can't get out of second gear, fam. Chosen and Loving It says Plumlee is he a big body? Kind of more of a mobile center, he's more he's more of an athlete. He's not a big bruiser type, but he would give our front court, I think, some extra depth, going into the playoffs. He can keep those loose balls alive. But look, he's not a great option. I would definitely take Rob Williams or Kevon Looney over Plumlee, and I would take Chris Boucher over him as well. And like I said, I would take Trey Jemison over Huck Porty right now. That's just where I'm at. Huck Porty just looks lost in the post, clumsy. He's kind of cut back on the fouling. So, he ain't as bad as he used to be on that end, but offensively, he just gives you absolutely nothing, man. He's getting blocked at the rim. And look, once upon a time, Huck Porty had even more athleticism. If y'all don't know, Huck Porty tore his Achilles, you know, at 20. So that took a lot of athleticism away from Huck Porty, man. He was one of the most athletic big men I've ever seen live in person coming out as a draft prospect. But that Achilles tear, that for a big man, that strips you of, like, I think that stripped Huck Porty of probably 20% of his athleticism, 20 to 30% of his athleticism. For a big heavy guy, that's a lot. That's a lot to recover from. So I don't think Huck Porty will be the same since that Achilles tear, but I don't know how much of a future in the NBA he has. But as a third string or a backup one day, I think that's probably his highest, ceiling right now. Um, but the thing is, look, right now we're trying to compete. We're trying to win that championship. I think you've just got to make a tough call. Uh, Vaughn says, to your point, CT, REJB, got to give props to Bickerstaff because he is committed to making others beat him. 4 guys were keying in on JB yesterday. Yeah, he takes it personally, fam. And just to add to that, we sent him home packing when he was with Cleveland. Remember, we broke up the Cleveland Cavaliers when JB was their coach. Now we sent him home packing last season, coaching Detroit. So y'all see why they were so locked in. The Knicks have a target on their back when it comes to JB Bickerstaff because he's just a guy that he wants to beat the Knicks, man, and the players are definitely a reflection of his focus right now. I think the Knicks weren't focused last night as well. So many guys getting beat backdoor, 5-on-5, yet 2 Detroit Pistons guys were managed to be open all the time. I mean, Clarkson was losing Dennis Jenkins for an open 3. Tobias Harris was being left wide open. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Know your personnel. It's 5v5. There's no reason a guy should be getting lost. So Nick's got an issue with lack of focus, and that's why these situationals, a lot of these guys just ain't cutting it right now. I'm persisting with Diawara because you just got to keep his confidence up. He's one for the future. Him and Shamet need to keep playing, but Kolek and Clarkson are too much of a weak link. Too much of a weak link when it comes to the physicality and the size element. You bring in Alvarado, and who are we going to replace Clarkson with? Maybe a Highsmith, maybe another guy too. Jose G Insight, great to see you here. Dirty Dan says, if Jose opts out, hard to retain him if they want to make a Giannis trade. Okay, that is an interesting situation. Do you think he opts out the 4.5 million? Possibly. One Shot D says, Cat, I heard, has a good relationship with Kyle Anderson. That's a good point. Yeah, Mike Conley does as well, but I think Conley's going back to Minnesota. Hey, piece of CT, did you say cut your boy Huck? Yeah, I just think for this season, you could pick up Huck again in the future. But for this season, it's like, can you contribute? Is he ready for the big stage right now? I'm not so sure. Soul Train says, I would have taken Cole over Alvarado. Yeah, I have no arguments with that. I think Cole Anthony got skills, but Alvarado, I think, helps this team more on a defensive side of things. And you got obviously Deuce McBride, which you hope is going to be ready to go for the playoffs. So I think Deuce McBride is what Cole Anthony is at a better level. But Cole Anthony is probably more of a point guard. He's got that over Deuce. With Alvarado, man, we're definitely going to see how much of a difference one player can make. I hate to put too much pressure on one guy, but when that player does address a major need, you can see the rest of the pieces start to fall into place, Just like last night, you have OG and you have Cat. It's not going to be a 39-point beatdown because they replace other guys that were getting exploited majorly in Huck Porty, Kolek, Clarkson, And look, McCullough as well. Look, McCullough's on a two-way, so he's just helping out right now. McCullough's fine. He's fine to stay on a two-way. We can't expect too much from a two-way guy. He's just giving us something because we're down bodies. But I'm looking at guys eating up a real roster spot, and that's where we can sign upgrades with these guys. J Dub says Chris Boucher is the best option. Theoretically, I haven't seen Boucher much this season, and I kind of question why he doesn't get many minutes. Why does Chris Boucher continue to get moved around? Is an interesting thought. AP with a super chat says Silver looking the other way. Anthony Davis out for the year. Another team cheating us out of our pick. No consequences. Yet when you say another team, remember Dallas and Luka, fam. They sat out the remaining couple of games, fam, and missed out on the play-in. That hurt the Knicks' chances of getting Derek Lively, fam. The Knicks would have Derek Lively right now. I know he's out, but yeah, they cheated us out of that pick, man. You're 100%. That's why you're buzzing. Adam Silver looking the other way. Yeah, it's the rules are in place, but yeah, they ain't getting enforced because, like you said, Washington can do whatever the heck they want. But again, when you got injury-prone guys like AD, it's easy to keep making up injuries because it's believable, man. What hasn't gone wrong with Anthony Davis? 1 minute it's a leg, 1 minute it's an abdominal, 1 minute it's a shoulder. Who the hell knows, man? Next thing you got a sore toe. It's very easy to fudge, just like Utah with Danny Ainge out here. Yeah, El Tango says Clarkson isn't scoring or playing D. We should get rid of him. Yeah, I think we should have made a couple of other moves at the deadline, but things are still fluid. We can still cut guys before the March 1st deadline and add some more guys. It's all going to depend on conversations right now. So Leon Rose is having conversations with players' agents. The biggest hurdle, guys, is the role. So these buyout guys, they have their pick of the litter usually, which is 3 to 4, 5 teams that want them, and they're weighing up their options in terms of promises, minutes. How am I going to fit? Versus Knicks versus if I went to Miami. They're looking at they're weighing up all their options right now. But you hope with the amount of guys available that the Knicks can land. Well, obviously we're attractive. You think one of these guys would prefer to come here and really boost the Knicks squad going for a championship, as well as looking into the future, connections and all of that. Look, there's going to be more names. We're talking about some of the big names available right now. But just as I went on live, Cole Anthony set to get bought out as well. There could be some more DNPs being had, and guys having that conversation with the front office. Now the Blazers do have to waive some. The Blazers do got to waive one or two guys. They've waived Duop Reith, but they want to sign. They want to sign two of their two-way guys. So they've got to waive a couple of guys. So it could be Thibault, most likely. Robert Williams is a possibility with Donovan Clingan out there. There's a bit of a log jam. How much money is he prepared to give back? That's a big topic as well. Robert Williams is just below the 14 million, so the Knicks can sign him if he was to get bought out. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Dario Saric with the Pistons is going to make way for Dennis Jenkins. Dario Saric, I think, still can be productive in a limited bench role, but he's not going to offer defense. Maybe stretch four purposes. Would you just decide to play Diawara ahead of him? I think that's a fair point to make. Highsmith is definitely he's in hot demand right now. Ephraim Mendez says Clarkson weakness is defense. He doesn't read the scouting reports. Yeah, that's forever been his scouting report. Yeah, he's a chuck that doesn't play D. Now he can get hot and at his prime was a light you up dominant scorer. But the issue is he ain't in his prime no more. I'm sick of signing dudes past their prime. And look, if we are going to criticize Leon Rose, he's gone 0 for 2 in the summer. It is what it is, man. We signed Yabusele. You could talk about fit and all of that, but he had his best years in the past. We signed him over the hill. He's past his prime. Clarkson, the same thing. 33-year-old past his prime. Johnny Chiba says CT, cutting Clarkson would be a team-friendly move if multiple go down. He can get buckets and dish. If that was his role, wouldn't be surprised if Leon lets him go play for another team. Yeah, I think conversations are fluid right now. You think Clarkson would stick around with Deuce out, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt when the Deuce news came out, fam. But then you watch last night, and you're like, you look at against these hungry Lions in Detroit, and yes, Detroit were more locked in. Maybe it was an anomaly, tongue twister. Maybe it was a once-off, but Clarkson does look over the hill right now. And yes, in a big spot in the playoffs, he could, get loose for a little bit. But I think we need to address other needs, and we need more size and toughness. And I would swap his spot out. It's nothing personal. Clarkson has helped us win the NBA Cup. Yeah, as far as my Knick memories of Clarkson, man, there's way more Knicks that I'll have more of an issue with than Jordan Clarkson. It was a buyout experiment. Jose G says, is New York winning tomorrow? CT. Yeah, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about a bounce back, my guy. The Knicks usually, definitely Brunson. I mean, the legs, the pressure got to Brunson as well because he didn't have enough help. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a bounce back. Jose Alvarado, I think he's going to play big minutes. And he's not going to know all the plays and the playbook and all of that, but yeah, he's going to be ready. Feistiness, that dog. Like I say, man, it ain't the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog, fam. And look, for the chance to go up against Boston, as a Knicks fan growing up, Jose Alvarado, there'll be some extra juice tomorrow night, fam. So yeah, officially now available to make his debut. Al Tango says, CT, we should comment on these teams cheating us on the first round picks. Dallas tanking to keep their pick. Yep, 100%, man. We hit on that. But yeah, it is what it is. It's up to Adam Silver and the front office to really, do something about it. And look, we haven't even heard anything about the Kawhi Leonard thing. We haven't heard about Terry Rozier and his gambling investigation and all of that. Paul George, got done for anti-doping, but yeah, there's just a lot of things the NBA been slow at. The Knicks just have to control the controllables, right? It sounds cliche, but if you can control the controllables, we'll be where we need to be, And right now we've got a situation, we've got some tough decisions to make, but we have options, Thankfully, Deuce looks like he's going to return. We have to make some hard calls, We'll see what Alvarado looks like in his first couple of games. Now, I'm not putting a ton of pressure on him in his debut, but hopefully after 3 to 5 games, we'll know where Jose Alvarado really fits and can give this team in terms of minutes, and then you can make your decisions based on Clarkson and Kolek. Shaman and Diawara, man, continue to get busy because we need those guys continuing to play. I was underwhelmed with McCullough, Huck Porty, Clarkson, and Kolek last night, man. Not enough urgency, man. They look like, baby lions, man, in the jungle. Or baby cubs. Man. Dirty Dancer says Time Lord is the dream, I think, but Portland probably wants that 10 seed. Yeah, that's a fair point. They are in the mix. They got Klingon. as well. What about the Mavs? You know, they've got Powell, obviously Dwight Powell and Marvin Bagley. Would that be a close second for you? Mason Plumlee would be your pick, Tendrell. Yeah, Mason Plumlee can bring some experience, you know. Again, he's going to be third string. It's just in case of emergency, whatever happens with Cat, whatever happens with Mitchie too. Uh, I don't know how much Kevon Looney has left in the tank, but I like this suggestion the next time. Uh, Rebounding, size, rim protection. But yeah, he's more of a drop center. Uh, my thing is, obviously, we're talking about buyout guys, and there's a catch with most buyout guys, but some of these guys, I'm like, are they really as bad as they, um, as the buyout label suggests, or are they just in a bad location? Uh, Johnny Chiba with a super chat, big up. If you're cut, New York Knicks are the team, right, to be part of the chip run. That's a huge point to make. Definitely, we're not just saying this as Knicks fans, but if the Knicks are extending that branch to a buyout guy at this point in the season, it's to say, hey, we need you, right? We're a championship level team. We ain't just coming at you and trying to sign you for no reason. So that hopefully that holds, the weight according to some of these guys out there. But some of these guys are in demand, for real. Like, the Lakers are in the mix. Miami's still attractive to buy out guys because of the no state taxes. That situation. Uh, Dirty Dance says the second rounder we gave up for Jose are such trash that I consider him as a mini mid-level signing. Yeah, 100%. I basically look at it like we swapped Yabu as that signing, and we signed Jose Alvarado in the summer. Now, if we could just flip Clarkson for another big, will be great. Yeah, Cole Anthony, we'll see what happens with Phoenix. Gillespie's been running amok out there. Johnny Chiba says Drummond over Huckporty. Yeah, look, I don't want to sound too harsh on Huckporty. I just think you got to be ruthless at this point in time, right? Is he one for the future where he's so talented we have to desperately keep at all costs? Absolutely not, man. You could find a second round big, on the scrap heap every year. And like I said, at one point as a draft prospect, I did believe in Ariel Huckporty even more in terms of pre-Achilles tear, because his athleticism was just, off the charts. But I think that's just changed his game a lot. Like, he's very below the rim, right? For a big man, his size and, quite heavy, to have a below the rim center is, yeah, it looked ugly last night. Now he might need more time. He might get there. Definitely not saying that he can't stick around in the league. Right now, where the New York Knicks are at, I'll probably take Mason Plumlee. Definitely take Kevon Looney. Definitely take Chris Boucher and some of these other guys right ahead. Duop Reith is out for the season, right? I would have taken a healthy Duop Reith because he could space the floor out as a big man. George Niang, I don't know, man. George Niang is a guy, again, that I don't think is going to be able to help the Knicks, too much. Chris Connor says, isn't there a 15th team roster spot that's vacant? 100% there is. That's why we're looking at, we are going to make a move. We are going to bring someone in. And hopefully there's some better names get bought out. Dirty Dan says, Huck just never took Deuce advice when he said, gotta show Tibbs you play hard. Doesn't have that mean streak. Yeah, a little clumsy with the ball too. I never fault Huck's, energy and fire and desire, but I just think he's a little too clumsy with the basketball. Now, he has made improvements with his free throws, so shout out to that. He did drain both free throws last night. I was paying attention to that. But everything else, he just can't really put the ball on the floor and, at least take his man off the dribble or something. Yeah, Jose Jesus facts, CT baby Cubs. Yeah, just maybe they're not ready for the prime time, you know. Detroit was playing with a purpose, fam. Their compete level was 99. Like Dirty Dancer said, yeah, there's a talent deficiency with some of our situationals, but their compete level wasn't at 99. If you're Huck Porty or Kolek, you got 1 foot out the league. You need to be playing like your meal ticket is on the line. Dennis Jenkins playing out there like his life was on the line. That's inexcusable if you're a New York Knicks player, man. You should be playing like your life is on the line as well. You're blessed to be in this situation, to be playing meaningful minutes on the number 2 seed. I just think some of these dudes are a little too comfortable. Let's go all the way back to why Leon Rose signed PJ Tucker, right? That signing was redundant theoretically, right? But why did Leon Rose sign PJ Tucker? Because he wanted something different in the locker room. He wanted to shift the dynamic, right? And if you're a team competing for a championship, you shouldn't need that. These players should know what's at stake. They shouldn't be too comfortable. You shouldn't need a PJ Tucker to come in, man. It was a wasted signing in a way because I think we needed a healthy body. You should be at the point where you're trying to sign a young, healthy, productive body, not PJ Tucker and his sneaker collection. But with that said, Leon Rose saw value because obviously there was something going on. There was something going on in that locker room, and he needed to bring in a vet, right? He needed to bring in that vet. Now, hopefully we're at a point now where it's like, to hell with that. We need production. 15th man be damned. Cut some of these guys that aren't giving us anything, and bring in some activity, right? Bring in some guys that can actually, at least defend, at least not get beat backdoor, and bring that effort and energy level, to the highest level. Be a little bit more aggressive too. Yeah, this name as well, Soul Train Salute. Thoughts on Brook Lopez buyout? I'm 50-50. I could be probably talked into it. I'm not anti Brook Lopez. Because I know once upon a time, obviously, he's got a real skill set. Can space the floor out still. But yeah, it's just going to be about his mobility. And last I saw Brook, he can't really move too well. I think he's got some bad feet. He's got some bad feet right now. But yeah, it just depends where his medical's at. Now, on that medical note, man, I just saw a report. A couple of teams interested in Lonzo Ball. Now, not the Knicks, but the couple of teams interested in Lonzo Ball have requested a medical report. So that's where we're at. Teams doing due diligence now. They don't want to waste a spot on a dude that might break down. So, we've got teams doing their due diligence on Lonzo Ball. And fair enough, Next thing you know, you use your final spot, the cutoff passes, and then you can't play the guy. So we're gonna find out sooner rather than later, man. Kendrick, Big Perk says Jose Alvarado, #1 on his list of biggest pickups, biggest winners of the trade deadline. Right. Look, Perk is in touch with whatever's going on. He knows how important the signing and the fit is. It's not so much about talent all the time. It's about fit. Now, Nikola Vucevic was one of my biggest pickups for the deadline. He had a great game. Now, he's not at his prime by any means, but he was a great fit for Boston. So they addressed a big need as well, fam. James Harden, I think, all said and done, will help Cleveland because he plays. Garland was in the MASH unit, and James Harden can at least, bring the ball up and take, pressure. He could take the load off of Donovan Mitchell. So just by default, I think James Harden was a need. Now, ATL, they're way back, but they've got a lot of wings. They've got a lot of athleticism now. I like the pickup of Jock Landale, who was had on cash considerations, man. Utah cut him, and he could have been had as a stretch 5, productive stretch backup 5. Jock Landale put up 26 and 11 in his Hawks debut. This is a guy who was available for scraps. He's been having his best career season with Memphis, and Atlanta, was able to pick him up. So yeah, I need the New York Knicks to expand their horizons, and you know, hopefully I can find a productive player, diamond in the rough, as our Dirty Dan says. I love your Aussie. Yeah, it's also more that I also know his game, and not a lot of NBA fans know much about Jock Landale, and he's certainly not a difference maker, on a mediocre team. But we all know where the Knicks are at right now. I think we just need some guys that can be productive, can rebound, space the floor out. We'll see how it plays out. Shaman and Mo D need to keep playing 100% El Tango. Menno B says the whole team is soft as it's sad. Detroit's mindset was F these BAs, MFers, and Brunson just kept shooting, knowing he was off. Yeah, look, I think by the end of the first quarter, second quarter, they kind of mailed it in. The game was lost, early, very, very early. Knowing they're playing shorthanded. I said earlier, Josh Hart should not have played, because that play where he was running in transition and Hart, we know he usually goes full tilt, takes it to the rack. He hesitated, and he just was not himself because, he was in a situation where he was banged up. He should not have played. But I know we were down the body, so Hart's probably like, man, I gotta play. But look, the great point made earlier about Leon Rose and the signings, the moves. We are a top-heavy squad. There was a price to pay to security and locking all of these players, down for this ride. Karl Anthony Towns, $53 million. That's the cost of two players, Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Two very good players on a high-level playoff team. Those two salaries make up one player, so we lose depth. With he's out, you're kind of screwed. OG Anunoby earning $42 million, right? One of the highest paid wings in the NBA. Josh Hart's under a decent contract. Mikal Bridges earning a hefty contract, and Jalen Brunson, on a good contract but on a haircut. But that's why it puts a lot of pressure on the bench, the end of the bench and the rotation, right? The Knicks are in a fortunate situation to have Landry Shamet on a minimum, Deuce McBride on a bargain contract, Jose Alvarado, flipping Yabu on the mini mid level, and getting him now. But Clarkson's on a minimum as well, and Mitchell Robinson is on a decent contract for a backup center, so I'll give that. But the other four spots, man, it's going to be tough to compete for a championship when 4 of your 5 bench players are close to damn near on the minimum. With the exception of Alvarado and Deuce McBride's $4 million. I mean, they're basically on a below the mini mid level. And so that's the position you put yourself in, man, when you traded for Karl Anthony Towns. We are super top heavy. And then the spotlight goes on Mikal, goes on Josh Hart, OG. If they're not producing or they're out, it puts a lot of pressure on, the rest of the guys. And, we can go all the way back to some of the draft choices and decisions. How much of them hurt, how much of them were a hit with Deuce and Mitch. But obviously there's been a lot of misses. Kolek's definitely one for the future. I'm very high on Kolek, keeping him around as a future backup. But this season, looks like, Alvarado was the play. A lot of help needed in that area. Bringing the ball up, ball pressure is going to be a huge catalyst, right? Because that is our weakness, man. They full on converge on our, on Jalen Brunson. The thing I like most about Alvarado is that he plays at 110 speed. Doesn't matter whatever you're doing out there, you got to play at a speed And you look at Indiana. I think they were probably the masters of it in the beginning, with guys that can dribble, pass, shoot. They're always knowing what the next move is. They're always processing at a fast level, because you got Neesmith, Nemhard, Tyrese, multiple guys that are comfortable with the ball in their hand. With Alvarado, we're adding in another guy that's comfortable with the ball in his hand. More comfortable than Deuce McBride, more comfortable than Tyler Kolek. And definitely there is going to be lineups. If y'all are curious about Brunson and Alvarado, are they going to play together? I expect them to play together. I expect Jose and Brunson to play a lot together. Because why? You got to get Brunson off the ball. You got to get Brunson off the ball a little bit, right? One, it'll help the offense, but it'll help save Brunson's energy for down the stretch when he needs to cook. And it'll also keep the pests like Dennis Jenkins or Sarah Thompson or whoever else wants to blanket Brunson. He can be a little bit of a decoy at times. If they want to put two bodies on Brunson, someone's going to be open, man. Find the open man. I think Kolek made a couple of nice plays punishing Detroit for overhelping, and he found Mitch. For the lob. Their big went to sleep. I want to see a little bit more of that. Now, Brunson doesn't find Mitch too often because his head's down too often. He's either trying to take that matchup personal or he's trying to get to his spots. I get it. But the thing is, if you want to beat a good defense, you can't go isolation too much. You can't play into the hands of the defense. You got to be mindful of who's around you, who's open, and you got to punish them quickly too. So I think getting downhill was key, fam. Getting into our sets a lot quicker. AC says it. Yeah, good. Get Brunson off the ball. Perfect. And I wonder how many minutes he's going to get. Yeah, I think with Deuce out, to the end of the regular season, I think Alvarado is going to be playing at least 25 plus. He might be playing with Kolek some as well. And I think, yeah. Look, credit to Brown for persisting with Mo Diawara as well. What a bargain pickup that was in the second round. Still got a lot of promise in terms of, regardless of last night, Mohamed Diawara is a must. He must play. There was a couple of possessions he guarded Cade. I think he did okay. The thing I like about Diawara is he's always got his arms up. He's always trying to get deflections, steals, and use his length and tools as well. But if there's one thing that I want to see more from Diawara in terms of taking that next step, it's be aggressive. Like, post your man up. Don't be afraid to keep the ball. When I see Diawara, sometimes he just gives it up straight away. Like a young player usually does. They don't want to force it. But on a night like last night, when everyone's keying in on McHale and Brunson, you got to be aggressive. You got to make the defense pay, right? You're basically playing 2-on-5, with McCullough and Diawara just looking to give the ball up, and that's the biggest difference, with readiness. It's not even so much about talent, because these young kids, they got a bright future, they got some upside. They're just not ready yet. They're not at the level where they can be aggressive. It's a big moment to be in, a big spotlight. APCT, your opinion, is Leon Rose a good judgment of talent? It's a tricky evaluation because Leon Rose doesn't make all the decisions, fam, in terms of, like, it's a committee. That's just the best way I can say it. Our front office, how it works, fam, is you got Walt Perrin, you got all the scouts, you've got William Wesley, you've got Gerson Rosas, you've got Brock Aller, you've got Alan Houston, and you've got the coach. And then you hear, Leon Rose listens to all the opinions, fam. Leon Rose wasn't really coming from a basketball background, fam. He's a smart man, come up as a lawyer, great decision making in terms of weighing pros and cons and process of elimination and all of that. but he ain't really a basketball head, fam, from that standpoint. But he does listen to, all the evaluations and all of that. But I think no one's perfect. There is some guys that have slipped through the cracks. The Yarbrough and the Clarkson moves. I think, we could have done better. In terms of filling those spots. You know what I mean? Uh, with that said, but look, a lot of players slip under the cracks as well. Theoretically, we're going off last season. We had a need. We lost Precious. Campaign left. So you think, okay, Clarkson, on paper, I was saying was an upgrade over Campaign or whatever. And, whatever Yarbrough looked like last season, you think that's an upgrade over Precious. But then you got to factor in a new system, a new coach. Maybe they're just not built for the spotlight. They're not ready. And all of that. Fit's the biggest thing. Fit over talent. Like, you could be super talented. If you're in the wrong place, wrong time, you ain't going to thrive. You ain't going to be able to show off your skill sets to the maximum ability, right? I think the jury is still out on Mikal Bridges in terms of fit, in terms of all the teams he's been on. And I would say Phoenix as, with less pressure. Phoenix is like the third option, fourth option. He's a better fit than where he is right now on the New York Knicks, because on the New York Knicks we need a more aggressive player. We need a more dynamic scorer and a better ball handler, and we need probably a better point of attack defender. But it is what it is, I think there's if we don't end up winning a championship, the two moves that Leon Rose will be forever, or should be forever tied to, is the flipping of Julius Randle and Dante for Cat, and trading for Mikal Bridges at that time. If he had waited a little bit longer and just seeing how things played out, things could have, looked different. Now, all of that might be, pointless, because we might win a championship and Mikal Bridges might end up doing the business. I'm just looking at things from where it is right now. And I think for a $35 million guy, I think the fit is still in question. Right? Not saying it's right or wrong. I think it's fair to question, because with Mikal Bridges, we need a more aggressive player, and we need a grittier point of attack defensive player than what we're getting. And I think in Phoenix, there was less pressure on Mikal Bridges. Obviously, earlier, he was able to just do his thing, and then the pressure went up when he went to Brooklyn, and he became the first option, and then his game kind of regressed because he was out of place. He's not in his rightful fit. And then with our New York Knicks, with Brunson and Cat, can you win a championship with OG or Mikal as your third best scorer? That's what we're going to find out. Your depth needs to improve, in my opinion. Leon's a delegator, says Dirty Dancer. Meno B says that game they let Clarkson start in, it should have been Diawara start in. Yeah, that was puzzling to me, letting Clarkson start, fam. Now, yeah, questionable decision to not have brought up Dink Pate at this point in time. Now, maybe they have just been waiting towards the end of the year to sign him as the 15th man. Reports suggest he's rejected a two-way, so maybe that isn't the Knicks' fault. But now he's weighing up his college eligibility, because Dink Pate can earn big money next season with the NIL money if he goes to college. Now, he never played college, so he retains his college eligibility. He came out to the G League Ignite program with the Mexico City Capitans. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised Dink Pate's being patient. He's waiting for a real deal, or he's going to go back to college, fam. We'll see what plays out. He's probably still theoretically a little too young and raw, but based on what the Knicks need right now, I'm not in practice every day. These guys are, so I think they'll be best positioned to make a better evaluation. Um, but more than likely, with that said, I think we're going to end up with one of these guys, right? Hopefully, it's not Garrison Matthews. It needs to be a guy that can eat rotation playoff minutes, 110%, right? Not a guy on the fringes. It needs to be a guy that you can trust 100% and put out there for, I don't know, small role, maybe 8 to 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, we are still shallow, man, towards the end of the bench. You take Clarkson and Deuce out. Um, AC is a fan of Precious. Says, I wish we could have somehow traded back for Precious. Um, yeah, it's interesting. We haven't heard too many conversations come out post deadline. One conversation leaked was that Ian Begley confirmed that the Knicks had discussions about Pacome Dardier, but it was probably nothing that they saw fruitful because they were probably going to have to attach draft compensation to send Dardier out. That was another wasted pick. I think theoretically, if Leon knew we were going for a championship, we could have traded back and got more seconds, or try to find someone at that draft spot who was a bit more ready. Um, you see Ryan Dunn. He's in the playoff rotation, or he's in the rotation for Phoenix. Is Ryan Dunn? Uh, Dirty Dan says it's harder than ever to make the perfect moves. The aprons make you make the best moves in the time allowed. That's a great point. There is time constraints as well. There is competition for signatures and all of that. Um, yeah, Monday morning quarterback is hindsight as well because Clarkson. I don't know if there was that many people down on the Clarkson signing. It's like, okay, it is what it is. We get a guy that we think is better than Cam Payne, but now we have the opportunity to rectify. Don't get sentimental, fam. Cut Clarkson, cut Huck Porty, in my opinion. We're going for a championship. I like the upside of Huck Porty one day being a backup, but what's the point in holding on to that when he's not available and ready for the playoffs in terms of experience and readiness in terms of game, right? We're competing against the best, and Detroit look deeper. I think top end talent, we're still more talented than Detroit. That's my conclusion. However, I think the difference between a series swing could rest on a Karl Anthony Towns performance, right? Now, you could say that's a very tricky situation to be in. Well, guys, we're paying Cat $53 million. At what point can you not depend on a $53 million guy? You're paying him that much. That is Leon Rose's decision to trade Randall and Devo. And Cat has it in him. He has the skill set. He can swing a series. He did swing a couple of series with a big game in Detroit last season. Otherwise, we probably go to game 7. And then he kept us in the Indiana series with a heroic game 3, right? To keep us from going 0-3 down. We just need it more consistently. We need the best version of Karl Anthony Towns, right? The Cat noise never helped, obviously, because we weren't able to swing that deal. But Cat is now a Knick post the trade deadline. Hopefully he's settled down. Yeah, Michael Drake says Cat CT Pate college draft will get more money. Yeah, most definitely. I think Dink Pate's. I would love us to pick him up. Chris says I should have kept and just paid DeLon Wright, Dink Pate, Marjon Beauchamp, Devo Bogdanovic would have been straight right now. Yeah, there were a few gambles. DeLon Wright, kind of a little bit over the hill. So I'm okay with them taking a swing with Clarkson. But yeah, Chris asks, yeah, which of the guys on screen would I prefer? So I would prefer from first, let me say first preference. It's probably a tie, but yeah, Matisse Thybulle, Hayward Highsmith, or Kyle Anderson. Those three guys, I feel confident enough where it's like they can play. They can play in the playoffs. You can play them, and you could trust them. You could trust them to some level, some degree. Now, different levels of production and where they're at in their careers, but I think based on a free signing and a buyout, Matisse Thybulle, Highsmith, or Kyle Anderson. Just behind those guys, it would be Robert Williams, the big man, Bruce Boucher, or Nicholas Batum. And then you get further down the list. I'm kind of leaving Cam Thomas out because I don't think that's realistic. I think Cam Thomas is looking for a high usage place where he can play a little bit more and hopefully earn a big contract. But then, yeah, we got news that Cole Anthony is going to potentially get bought out as well. So I would definitely look at Cole Anthony because I know that he can play. He can play serious minutes. Patrick says, right now the Knicks don't need Kolek, Dardier, McCullough. Send them back to the G. We need size, more physical players. Yeah, I do agree about the physicality. Dardier, I think, and McCullough and Kolek. Yeah, agree. I think Diawara deserves to continue to play, most definitely. Soul Train says, I'd take D'Lo over Alvarado or Clarkson if available. Yeah, I don't know if D'Lo is going to get bought out. I think, he might stick. Damn, he might actually stick. But I'd rather just take a young upside swing on Dink Pate. And I wouldn't waste the lone spot available on Dink Pate. I'm freeing up more spots, fam, in case he just joined us. There's no reason to keep Clarkson for me. I would prefer a couple of these guys on screen over keeping Clarkson. Huck Porty as well, right? You're not losing anything. 1.9 million with Huck. I don't even know if they'll look to retain him next season, right? You could probably do better with our first round draft pick. Remember, we've only got so many roster spots. That's another reason. We've got a first round pick and we've got 2 seconds. Right. So we could theoretically make a talent upgrade on Huck Porty. Now, if he can't help you in the right now, right, I'm making a decision to bring in experience right now. Because look, everyone else is, we're kind of getting left behind because all these teams can go 11, 12, 15 deep. Right. We were getting outplayed last night by Detroit's 15th, 14th guys. Man, Shaz Lanier was lighting it up. Man, I liked him coming out of the draft, but yeah, those guys looked hungry for their opportunities. Our guys played like they were satisfied. Our guys played like they had a full belly. That like they weren't hungry. The Detroit dudes were scrapping like, hey, we got a 38-point lead. We want to extend the lead. We don't want Knicks to get anything. That's how hungry Detroit looked. Man, our guys, some of our situationals look happy to be there. Smiling and grinning and all of that. Man, that doesn't sit well with me because of the position we're in. Right. These guys need to understand, man. It's not only a privilege to be in this market and get the spotlight and opportunities, but we are in the midst of a championship run. Right. You can't be getting punked to a Detroit team. Right. Talent be damned. You can't be getting punked. Right. I could take a 5-point loss, but not be getting punked. Right. That's talent aside. That's compete level. That's confidence. That's a lot of things other than just talent. Jason says we need ferocious defenders to beat teams like the Pistons. We need to play faster. We need more ball pressure. Alvarado will help. Yeah, we need to be able to deal with their ball pressure. We need to play a lot more smart. Damn. But it is a ripple effect where we're constantly picking the ball out of the cup. They're able to kind of swarm Brunson and limit our transition opportunities, fam. Uh, it ain't going to be the case all the time. Like Javonte Green was hitting everything. Dennis Jenkins could not miss. Tobias Harris could not miss. That's not going to be the case all the time. And we need to get a rebound. We need to get out and run. But if we constantly are picking the ball out of the basket, it doesn't go well with our half court set. Slow running, getting the ball up. I think Alvarado needs to be that injection of speed, fam. Grand Theft Alvarado, man. Make them feel us. Get in their gym shorts. Get gritty and get busy. And just another dog, fam. Like Johnny Chiba says, Dardier is not a doggy. I like that. And look, yeah, a lot of top-heavy rosters have a lot of guys on the end of the bench that just they ain't NBA ready. It's not a Leon Rose fault or any in that regard. He believes in our top 7 or 8 guys are going to win us the chip, and that could be the case. Unfortunately, we're at the point where we're dealing with some injuries, and we do need our depth. Newsflash, an NBA team's depth actually matters. It really does because you know Deuce goes down, Hart's banged up, OG's out, Cat's out. You're going to need guys to really be ready. That's why depth does matter, right? Maybe not in years past, but look at last season. Survival of the fittest. Indiana pacemakers, fam. They ran Cleveland out the gym. Cleveland was sitting at the top of the mountain, untouched during the regular season. They probably thought, yeah, no one can touch us. Then they found out. They got punched by Indiana, who ran them out the gym because Cleveland just did not have the depth, right? They could not go toe to toe with Indiana, right? Indiana were playing 13 bodies. Rick Carlisle was like, yep, we're going to get to the playoffs and we're going to shock people. We're going to have guys just coming in and out and running amok. Um, so I think the NBA landscape has changed, fam. You do need depth, right? I don't think this top heaviness is the play, right? You can't be having $90 million in Cat and OG unless they're like completely balling out. If they're balling out, then cool. They can win you the series, they can win you the chip. But if they ain't balling out, it puts a lot of pressure on the next guy. Puts a lot of pressure on Mikal Bridges. And then you see the fan base turn on him because they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're paying you 35. We need more. But is he kind of is he in the wrong fit? Should he be a 5th option? Should he be a 4th option? And not the 3rd option. Also, I think Josh Hart is obviously a lightning bolt for this team, right? We need scoring and decisiveness out of Josh Hart. If he's all over the place, second guessing, hesitant, turning it over, trying to make a home run pass, that can hurt you as well. So Hart is an erratic guy. So I think we need all our guys clicking to get to where we need to get, and that's why I think you can never have enough talent. And if I was in charge right now, I'd be cutting Clarkson, I'd be cutting Huck Porty, and I'd be filling the 15th spot as well. And I'll be trying to sign 2 to 3 veterans that can eat minutes. There's no doubt our situationals and our depth is short right now. I mean, Deuce McBride was doing yeoman's work for us this season, man. Talk about a guy on $4 million. You take his production out of this squad, and you see the holes, man. That's why I'm still concerned about adding more talent, because you should not be saying that about a championship level team. You shouldn't be saying, oh man, we're missing a $4 million guy. He changes everything. As good as Deuce is, if you're set up to go all the way, I don't think a $4 million player, should swing the needle too much. Your top 5, top 6 guys should be enough. With Mitchell Robinson included. Um, yeah, that's why, I can't help go back to the Randall Devo Cat situation. Like, Cat didn't play last night. We could talk about OG as well, but I think if we're to beat Detroit, you know, this might sound like the obvious, but Karl Anthony Towns is going to be the difference, right? If we get a no-show from Karl Anthony Towns, especially with Jalen Duren playing well now, it's going to be tough for the Knicks to beat Detroit, even if everyone else plays well. Uh, I think Karl Anthony Towns could be the swing, um, because I'm not worried about Brunson. They could talk about Osar Thompson and all that, man. When the lights turn on, last time we checked, Jalen Brunson was having Osar Thompson slide like he's in the Winter Olympics, man. Right now, the Winter Olympics just kicked off, man. Osar Thompson's still sliding right now. When the lights turn on, Jalen Brunson's going to be there. We know that. He's proven it over and over again. Proof of concept, right? Is Osar Thompson, does he have any proof of concept when the lights are bright? Everyone's glazing him, talking about him as the best defender in the world and all that right now. Okay, we'll go out in the playoffs and actually do something, Or Osar Thompson looked like a deer in the headlights in the playoffs with the basketball. So we'll see what happens, man. The thing that frustrates me the most about this Knicks team, right, is they flip a switch, right, or they need to flip that switch. They ain't on all the time. This Knicks team is like a vibes and moments team. Whereas last season's Cleveland, this season's Detroit, the way they are built is just to be on all the time. They're 100% all the time. And we are going to find out, when the lights turn on and the Knicks have to flip that switch, right? Does everything look more normal? When the Knicks compete level is higher, everyone's there, healthy, we're going to see the best of Detroit, what it looks like against the best of the New York Knicks, right? One thing I do still believe with this Knicks squad is it's going to be tough to still beat us 4 games out of 7. You might be able to beat us 2 in a row like they just did, both games in Detroit, right? But the Knicks will inevitably bounce back. They'll respond. They've got that in them to punch back. To beat a Knicks team 4 out of 7 is going to be still very, very difficult. The same way it's going to be difficult to beat Detroit 4 out of 7. So the way it's going to go is it's probably going to go 7. It's probably going to look like a 6-7, right? There's no way any Knicks Boston or Knicks Detroit series is going to go 6. Or 5. It's definitely going to go 6 or 7 for me. Lucas says, any news on Deuce? So, yeah, he's had the procedure. 6 to 8 weeks is the projection, and that'll take him right up until the final 2 weeks of the season. If it's 6 weeks, if it's 8 weeks, it'll be right up until the playoffs begin. So, all going well, we should have Deuce right before the playoffs. So I think we're going to be okay. It's just going to be like, okay, how does Deuce, get up to speed? How does he look? How does he deal with any soreness? Hopefully, he's still young. He should recover, hopefully, a lot more quick. Yeah, we lost Brogdon as well, like Soul Train says. So I think, yeah, the biggest need we had was ball handling, and that's where I think this Alvarado deal was a B plus A. Not to hype up Alvarado, the player, too much, but the skill set that he provides that we're bringing in, I think is actually bigger than the player that he is. Because on this Knicks team, I think Leon Rose has obviously done the data. They've looked at all the analytics, and they're like, they targeted Alvarado for weeks, for months. So the Knicks are a heavily analytic and data-driven front office. And they've obviously picked up something where they think Alvarado is really gonna help this team. And I would agree, because You know, you just need more ball pressure. We need to get the ball up faster as well. And the ball handling and the point of attack defense is our biggest need. Now, the size is missing, but the size wasn't the biggest need, more so than the ball handling and the ball pressure, right? Look at Dennis Jenkins, man. He's a midget. You can't tell me Dennis Jenkins is some stout dude, but he was playing with such intensity, you know, that it's difficult. You know, Osar Thompson's a long dude, got wingspan and that, but he's not massive. So I think size is still important, but it's not the most important thing. If you can get up in someone's gym shorts, you know, and apply ball pressure like Alvarado is here, that is going to be big time for this squad because no one does it. That's the biggest issue, man. Deuce McBride will try to pick up full court, but he's just not that dude anymore. Josh Hart cannot do it. Mikal Bridges does not. OG Anunoby's too big to be picking up full court. So that's why I think this Alvarado thing is exactly what the team needs. Now, he's not going to solve every problem, but he is going to be a major, major boost. You know, we'll see what else we can add. If we add one more guy, I would still like a big, but I won't be mad if they bring in another wing ball handler as well, because I think you can never have enough ball handling. Man. I think the game plan from the other team, man, is clear. Try to pressure Jalen Brunson as much as possible, because he's the engine. You know, Jalen Brunson is the engine. If you slow him down and make him pick up the ball or give up the rock, or even physically assault him like they're doing, man. Elbows to the grill, shoulders to the mug. Jalen Brunson taking a beating. And it's tough to watch, you know. So we need more guys that can do things with the basketball. Cat's a play finisher. OG's a play finisher. Mikal Bridges kind of play finisher as well. Hart. I only look at Deuce, Hart, and Brunson and Kolek as the real ball handlers on this team. Well, Clarkson still a little shaky as well, but Hart can be erratic. Kolek, like I said, is still a position we could look at upgrading as well. But yeah, Dalen Terry was a name I really liked for that reason, fam. But I don't know how interested the Knicks were in him per se, because all it would have taken is to ask New Orleans, hey, are you interested in keeping Dalen Terry? If not, we are. So we're going to give him to you with 2 seconds. And can you please send him to a third team that'll cut him and so we can pick him up again? But unfortunately, we can't pick up Dalen Terry, fam, because the Pelicans waived him. And so we traded him, and I don't think he's going to be eligible to be picked up. Johnny Chiba says an A for the Alvarado trade. Yeah, if you just told me, like Dirty said earlier as well, like he was the signing in the summer instead of Yabu, I would have had the same reaction as the Yabu sign. I would have said that's a great signing for the mini mid level. You know, I think he'll automatically go down as one of our better backup point guards, in the last 25 years. New Orleans was way better with Alvarado on the floor than not, says Dirty Dancer. Definitely, it's the pressure element. Just the thought of him being around puts second thoughts in the other team's mind, and that's where the Knicks' timidness and lack of ball pressure really hurts this team. So, like I said, there's a reason why the Knicks targeted Alvarado for so long. Definitely, the Knicks have been looking at speed, at data, and you know, looking at where the Knicks have been lacking overall. Because when I first heard the name Alvarado, I wasn't overly moved because I'm like, yeah, I know what he's capable of, but he's not that special. But then when you look at what this team needs, he can be a special addition. Most definitely. Like I said, a system player that just fits our system a lot better. You know, you can't tell me some of these players on Detroit and you know, Oklahoma and that are really as good as they are, you know, by themselves. They just look great in that system where everyone else is buying in, everyone else is locking in defensively. the team looks better as a whole. You know, Dennis Jenkins is coming from a two-way position, right? He's just overly confident now because he knows the rest of the team are full of dogs. And I do think Alvarado is going to have that kind of um, he's going to have that kind of impact on the rest of the guys as well. What does Clyde say? It's contagious. You know, when Hart's going full tilt at the playoffs, when Deuce is out there and OG's locking down, it's all going to look great. You know, with an Alvarado as well, guy that can get downhill too. I think the underrated aspect is the shooting because he can pull up. He couldn't pull up off the dribble. AP, yeah, I see this question. It's a great question. Why is Conley and why is Anderson able to go back to Minnesota? It's because they moved to a second, third team, right? If you get traded by your team just to one other team, you can't go back to your former team. But if you move to a third team that cuts you, you could go back to the original team. So you simply just need to be traded twice. To answer your question, another great question, AP. Have the Knicks ever had a Puerto Rican player before? I'm sure they have. Yeah, I believe. Well, one that comes to mind is once a Nick, always a Nick, man. Ronaldo Borkman, fam. Shout out to Ronaldo Borkman, who was drafted in the 2000s, fam. I think the early 2000s. A swing man, Ronaldo Borkman, guards of 3s and 4s. Obviously, a Carmelo Anthony. How could we forget about him? Fritz, salute. Yeah, part of me was trying to go all the way back to see if there was an early Puerto Rican player, but yeah, we cannot forget about Melo. We've actually had more Dominican players as well. Once a Nick, always a Nick. What's his name? Most recently, my guy, the point guard, that we had for about, I think it was a week. He actually just lit people up in the Euro League too. Juan Montero, that's the name as well. We never signed Chris Duarte despite the links, but we've had another Dominican player as well, which is Juan Montero, the point guard, getting spicy. So yeah, I'm torn between the big and signing another ball handling wing. Fam. So you guys let me know in the chat, right? Is it a big or a wing? Right. We can all differentiate on different players available right now. But do you feel like the Knicks really need a big, or do you really think we need another wing right now, based on last night and based on some other situations, right? Javon Carter has already got picked up by the Magic. I think that was a clever pickup. Mike Conley is going to go back to the Timberwolves. I guess it does depend on the player as well. Matisse Thybulle, I think, would be an excellent fit, but he's going to take Diawara's minutes, most likely, too, fam. Jose Calderon was Spanish, fam. Espanol. D. Grant says both, man. We need both a wing and a big. Absolutely agree with that, man. Can't disagree. We need a big and a wing, but for that we've got to cut. We've got to cut Clarkson and open up 2 spots, or cut Huck Porty, in my opinion. Prigioni was Argentine, fam, as well. So shout out. Same as Luca Vildoza. Remember we had Luca Vildoza on the buyout from Europe? Man, he did not work out. We had Luca Vildoza for a cup of coffee, fam. He stopped by for a meet and greet and was on his way, man. Look, Matisse Thybulle's been dealing with a lot of injuries. So, again, if I'm the Knicks, I'm requesting medicals, man. I'm requesting medicals on all these guys, because there's a reason they get bought out as well. If you're a team trying to win, like Portland, uh, there's got to be some underlying situations. Um, you know, uh, look, the Knicks. I could tell you this too. I don't know this for 100%, but I do know in years past, as a proof of concept, I could tell you that the Knicks do host uh, undisclosed veteran workouts in the gym, fam. So take that to the bank, right? You might not get reported. Sometimes they tell the beat reporters that I've heard, and they don't report it until it's like towards the final conclusion, where they put pen to paper. But the Knicks don't leave any stones unturned. They do bring in veterans for workouts, you know, probably some former names, guys that been out the league a little bit. Dennis Smith Jr. is one name. There's been some other dudes as well, formerly Isaiah Thomas. So Leon Rose and co, they do bring in guys to work out, just to see where they're at, which is obvious. You don't want to be investing in something, that might not be what you need. Lucas Salute says we can sign 3 guys if we cut some guys. We can sign Terry back. If that's the case, no brainer. I want Dalen Terry, man. I did a whole breakdown on it before I went to sleep, just to wake up and find out that Dalen Terry was getting moved for Jose. But I do like the Jose pickup, so I'm not mad at all. I just like Dalen Terry as well. 2 things can be true at the same time. But yeah, what needs to be done is cut Clarkson, cut Jordan Clarkson. Thank you for your service, man. Might still have a little bit left in the tank for another team as a 9th or 10th guy. It's just not what the Knicks need right now. We are a turnstile on defense at the point of attack, right? Now Clarkson could fit somewhere else better than here, just like Yabu. He could fit on a team with 3 lockdown defenders around him, and then you don't have that kind of problem. But the Knicks don't have that, unfortunately, right? The Knicks don't have that. Glenn Jones, my guy, welcome in. Hope you've had a great day. Bless up to everyone in the building. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Appreciate you. And your takes as well, keeping us buzzing. Glenn says, I'm so disappointed. 40 points is crazy work. Like I said, everyone gave us the East this year, and look, Detroit busting our ass. Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways to break it down, man. The way I look at it is regular season is a different level than when the playoffs come. But there is also concerns with the way the Knicks are currently playing, the way they're constructed. The Alvarado thing will address a lot of issues. But yeah, the difference between Knicks and Detroit is probably Karl Anthony Towns, in my opinion. When push comes to shove, they're deep. They got a lot of talent. They got a lot of confidence now. But the Knicks will be hella confident as well. When push comes to shove, I still think we have the better player. I still think if you go into a series and you believe in your heart that you have the best player in that series, you should still be the favorite. Team v team, Jalen Brunson has proven it, man. Proof of concept. Again, people just want to gloss over the fact that Brunson done what he done in the playoffs for year upon year upon year. Cade Cunningham is the new kid on the block. I get it. But until he does something, right, you cannot gloss over what Jalen Brunson has done. Right, Cade Cunningham can look like Wilt Chamberlain in the regular season. He can look like the greatest thing to ever play. But the playoff situation is different. And Detroit fans and the Detroit franchise, who haven't really been in the playoffs for 15 plus years, they don't have a great grasp of playoff. They've had one series that they haven't been able to win in like 15 years. So here they are trying to hold on to something that has no proof of concept. You know what I mean? You could look like an excellent regular season player, which Cade Cunningham is, right? But when the pressure is there, the scheming, the game planning, teams planning on your weakness, the every other day games, the pressure, the pressure of the city, everything gets to you, man. So playoff ball is completely different. And what do they say? Pressure makes diamonds. And that's why Jalen Brunson is where he is right now, man. First team All NBA, done things that only Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe, and Shea Gilgeous have done right now, right? And I can wax lyrical about Cade Cunningham next season if he does all of what he needs to do. But right now, he hasn't done it. Right now, he hasn't done it, right? So, Knicks fans, don't worry too much because, look, we've addressed the need with Jose Alvarado. We need to be healthy, yes. But when you go into a series with the best player, you should be very, very confident. Now, coaching's going to play a major part. We need to be well coached, and put Brunson in the best possible spots, to succeed. Because look, K does have a good team around him as well. He's going to be real, real confident. But let's just look at it this way, guys. Before the Knicks and Detroit even face each other, Detroit have to go through arguably 2 other battles, right? So let them pass that test first, right? Let's not put the Knicks up against Detroit right now either, because we have to get through 2 rounds, most likely. So people might even be worrying about something that isn't even going to come to fruition, right? Everyone had the Celtics all the way through last season, right? And they overlooked the New York Knicks. When it came to the second round, they were cocky as hell. Joe Mazzulla didn't even respect the New York Knicks, man. Joe Mazzulla was like, man, go out there and jack up 39 threes in a quarter. Man, they ain't beating us. They ain't been able to stop us. And it came back to haunt. So I think coaching, game planning, and all that is going to be key. Respecting the opponents as well, fam. Detroit, they lost to Washington the night before beating us. So yeah, anything can happen, fam. One thing we can say is we haven't really had any awful letdowns except for that Dallas, in terms of losing to a shorthanded team. Even we were able to punish Washington as well. So yeah, let them get extra confident and talk-ish. We'll see what happens when Detroit have to face these other teams as well. Now, if you ask me, based on what I've seen, what are some weaknesses from Detroit? Is they're a little too overconfident now. You see their feistiness. Paul Reed, Beef Stew, JB Bickerstaff. You can get into their heads. Like they are prone to to get into it, whether it be a suspension, lose their cool late in the game. I still think Detroit are very young. They've obviously got more experience based on last season, but I do think from what I've seen, you can really get under their skin in that case, like especially when it comes to a Beef Stewart. Like that guy is a ticking bomb, man, waiting to explode when it comes to the playoff. You saw Mitchell Robinson get a little frustrated last night and push off, get into it with Paul Reed as well. So there is going to be a lot of animosity, man. Michael Drake says you are right, but as well we must improve the bench. We need guys that can get stops. Yeah, 100%. And I do think the playoffs, man, adjustments. Obviously adjustments are key. We'll see if Mike Brown can coach a clinic. Thibodeau, one of the reasons he lost his job was just playoff lack of adjustments. And obviously slow. When he did make an adjustment, sometimes slow to adjust as well, man. We need to be quick thinking, processing the game at a higher level as well, man. I'm loving these Jose Alvarado highlights because he just puts so much pressure on the other team, fam. Doesn't give them time to think out there. We just need more of that, fam. Sometimes it just feels like we're overthinking rather than trusting in our abilities too. Trusting in our abilities, you got to use the regular season as that tune-up with X's and O's and practices and all of that. I agree with Jason's comment here. Detroit's scoring is not really top tier either. Definitely. Their thing is to get up and down, play quick. They've got more bodies now. Yeah, it can go pear shaped in terms of, like I said, getting under their skin, or if they don't shoot as well. Like, what's going to happen if we're really locking down and their role players, aren't getting those easier looks too. Menno says, yeah, Cade was talking ish after the win. We got to get revenge on Feb 19 at MSG. Yeah, that'll be great. But even if we were to lose that one, I'm still not overly worried, because I still think Pistons are in that revenge mode where they're just still trying. They're looking at the Knicks as like, we sent them packing, and they're giving us their best shot. The Knicks aren't at the point where they're even given Detroit their best shot yet. So I think that could be, an underrated situation where, we are going to be a little bit under the radar. But like I said, there's a long way to go. 2 more rounds. Most likely not going to face Detroit until the 3rd round. That is if we can get the second seed, fam. If we end up with the 3rd seed, then I think we can. I think we can meet, fam. Yeah, we've talked about the buyout guys. Cam Thomas, I don't think is as good of a fit as some of these other guys, just from a defensive standpoint. And for that reason, yeah, I like Haywood Highsmith. Would be a good fit too. And I will talk about more names coming up, man, especially with more news, as some of these teams are still finalizing their buyouts too. And obviously, we've got the big game against Boston tomorrow, man. I'm predicting a win. In terms of a stat line for Alvarado, man, I'm expecting him to put up 12 points, 5 rebounds. He'll get a couple of steals. You already know, man. He might even get a block, man, a chase down block from behind. But yeah, he's going to be going at 110%, especially with other guys trying to bounce back after this Detroit beatdown. So yeah, look for the energy just to be 10 times higher. And I think the adrenaline is going to be big time. Look, when the Knicks lose, it's usually Peyton Pritchard or Derek White that gets loose. I'll be putting Alvarado on one of those guys. Don't give him no breathing room. Don't give him separation to get up from 3 as well. We need that. We need that ball pressure, 110% too. I just wish his first game was at MSG, but of course we are on the road tomorrow, and and then we're back home against Indiana, fam, and then Philly before All-Star break. But yeah, the hot topic is the buyout, guys. Deuce McBride's going to be out for most of the rest of the season, regular season, and then hopefully back just in time for the playoffs. But we've got a lot of games still to come, and we need another rotation player on top of Alvarado. Huck Porty doesn't look up to it. Clarkson and doesn't look up for it. Kolek is. I'm happy to keep situational because, like I said, certain matchups can suit Tyler Kolek still. However, I still think we need another body, man. We definitely need another body to take the pressure off too. Highsmith, Thibault, Kyle Anderson, Cole Anthony, Chris Boucher. We'll find out if Robert Williams can get bought out. Kevon Looney from the big man spot. But I do think I'm probably going to say a wing is still more important than a big, because if obviously it helps to have that insurance, but if Cat is fully healthy and Mitch is fully healthy, there's not many minutes that the other big is gonna see. But in an ideal scenario, there is an opportunity for a Haywood Highsmith or a Kyle Anderson to stay in the rotation permanently and be in a 9-man rotation. Now, it might come at the expense of a Diawara, but you got Shamet, Deuce McBride, Alvarado, Mitchell Robinson. I think there's room for one more, wing in that rotation if it's not Diawara. You know what I mean? Look, playoffs are going to be super physical as well. Guys might get banged up. So just having that extra dude. is important. Johnny Chiba says Brunson doesn't need to be captain clutch all game, pass the ball against good defense or lose. Yeah, he will. When all the guys are there, Brunson will find them. I think the issue with Brunson and when the Knicks are shorthanded, without Cat, without OG, is he just doesn't have the guys to pass to in terms of, spacing the floor out. Mike Brown had some pretty terrible lineups, and that's because he just didn't have much of a choice. McCullough can't space it. Diawara wasn't aggressive enough. He was left open a couple of times and hesitated. Hart was the king of hesitation last night, but he wasn't 100%. Clarkson was just too sloppy, and Kolek couldn't get out of the pressure, the ball pressure, the full court pressure as well. So multiple guard lineups could be key with Jose Alvarado and the ball pressure too, fam. So with that said, I'm going to get ready to wrap this thing up. Have a great rest of the night, fam. Appreciate you for the super chat contributions coming through. Everyone in the building as well. AP, SF Wisdom, Johnny Chiba, keeping it buzzing tonight. And Replay Squad shout out. Man, tomorrow it goes down. Jose Alvarado, Nick debut, man. Great news, and in the nick of time, man. Talk about Knicks cult heroes. This has the potential to be one of the biggest pickups in terms of lightning in a bottle, man. Cult hero pickup status, man. From J.R. Smith, right? John Starks, Josh Hart. Energy, man. In abundance. Energy in abundance. And passion, right? In the spotlight as well, man. Wears the heart on his sleeve, right? Lives and breathes the city. Former Knick fan. Jose Alvarado is going to be a fan favorite. Hopefully he can hit the ground running. Not going to put too much pressure on him in one game, but right, hopefully he can stay healthy as well. Let's see, fam. I think he's going to play 25 plus minutes, man. Mike Brown is ready for the Jose Alvarado experience, fam. We're ready for it too, and so is the rest of the chat in the fan base. Going to be calling Alvarado, man. GTA 5, exactly what we need too. Now Leon, get to work and bring in some more help, fam. Bring in Dalen Terry if we can. Bring in another wing, or solidify the backup big man spot too. Got to get more physical and more high IQ, in my opinion. Meno B says new starting five. You're ready to put Alvarado in there next to Brunson, OG, Hart, Towns. I do think Mike Brown, one positive thing I want to add about Mike Brown is that he's more willing to go offense and defense. So you will see Alvarado in some closing situations, right? Like with Mitch and Deuce, McCullough, he'll go Diawara. Last year, Tibbs was more set on his lineups, and he's like, Hart's going to stay out there no matter what. You guys close it out for me. But I do think Mike Brown is going to look at more matchups, and see how it goes too. Johnny Chiba says, thanks for your input, CT. Great show to help the pain of Poseidon loss. Yep. Definitely, fam. That's what we're here for. Keep our heads up, man. Like I said, no one regular season win or loss will define you. It's the playoffs, right? You don't lose in the regular season, you learn. We are going to learn from this, and obviously maybe Detroit put their best foot forward, and that is a situation where we'll be ready to punch back, right? We took a hit, we're going to punch back. Certainly on Feb 19, when we're back more fully healthy, and we'll have more guys to get at it. And let's see, man. Maybe it's time for Detroit to get more banged up. You can just never predict the future, man. That's why you can never get too high, never get too low. right? Just stay focused on what's at hand right now. And I do think Leon Rose and the front office, fam, they know what they're doing. I do believe that they're going to make the right adjustments too. And, they told us, they wouldn't have fired Tom Thibodeau amongst all the critique. They are willing to make the tough calls, right? And we'll see how the rest of the regular season plays out. But we'll be here. We'll be there. We'll be ready. We'll be buzzing. Salute to everyone. Peace.